Welcome to Shop Talk Live, episode number 263. Today, it's all about the shop. The shop. Barry, Mike, and I sit down and discuss what's going on in the shop, what we need to do to the shop, what we want to do to the shop, and kind of start game planning. It was the first time that all three of us had gotten together after we had spent some time individually working on the new machines in the shop. So it's just an interesting conversation. I want to take this opportunity to thank our shop launch partner, Grizzly Industrial, for helping us with the shop, contributing machines, and being a partner in getting things going in the new fine woodworking shop. Quick reminder, registration is now live for Dave Richards' Foundations of Woodworking SketchUp course. If you're interested in amping up your SketchUp skills, there will be a link in the description or the YouTube doobly-doo. Without further ado, here is our discussion in the shop after I finally hit the record button. Why don't we have a slider in this shop?
I'm just supposed to answer this like I didn't just answer this.
Yes.
Okay.
You're supposed to help a brother out.
So yeah, we were talking about sliding table saws and why we didn't have one for the shop, because it's like, they're super cool, right? Isn't like that the best table saw because it's the most expensive and super accurate? I think it comes down to, what are you using your shop for? Like, what are you doing in your shop? And it goes back to the point of, there's no such thing as an ideal shop for everybody. It's like the last shop you'll ever need, or, the sweepstakes to win the whatever complete shop. And it's just like, well, I carve spoons. I need a stool and a knife, and I'm good. Or I do sheet goods. I do built-ins, or I do miniatures, or I'm a guitar maker or whatever. So we're basically furniture makers for the most part, with extraneous little tendrils in different directions. But so this shop is basically set up for
You just called me a tendril.
for making fine furniture. So I think a slider, while it's super cool, it takes a lot to learn how to get the most of, say, a 10-inch table saw in terms of crosscut sleds, jigs, different operations that you're doing, different blades, and that to replace a table saw with something like a slider, which could possibly be quote-unquote better or higher quality, it's like, I wouldn't know how to use it. It's like, how does a crosscut sled fit on here? And it's like, it doesn't. Oh, well, how do you do this? Well, you probably don't.
Yeah.
But it's like a whole different, it's like when you have to get a new software program. It's like, well, how do I do this in this program? It's like, well, you don't. Well, how can I use it? And then, a week later, you never do that thing again because you just sort of get into that. I would say it'd be cool to have a 10-inch table saw, and if we had enough room, and a slider.
Yeah.
For that. Because you were saying how when you were watching someone use a slider, it's like, oh.
It was like watching a conductor. I mean, he just slipped into it, and it was amazing. Where like, I'm going to move this arm to unpin that, and then switch this, and then bring this to 45, and boom, perfect cut. And that was eye-opening because it was... Beforehand, they were just like big, ungainly machines to me for like plywood.
Yeah.
But the author who I was working with, Dan Chafin, did plywood stuff, but also like solid wood stuff. And it was very much a part of his workflow. Peter Galbert has a slider, which is one of my all-time favorite facts. That's like one of my bar facts. Yeah. Like when you get, Galbert has a slider. And I think he used it primarily for straight line rips for gluing up seat blanks. I could be wrong, as is my want. But
I think he probably uses it primarily as a horizontal surface.
We're
going to have Peter on and
I do all my glue ups on my sliding table saw.
This is a dead flat surface. Yes. But another revelatory thing with sliders was I was shooting with Tom McLaughlin, who has one.
Yeah.
And he was geeking out on it because he had just gotten it. He goes, watch this. And he hopped up on the sliding arm. Like, this is weird. What's next? And he goes, push the arm. Like, this is weird, but I'm liking this. And one finger, I pushed it. And Tom McLaughlin, who played tight end in high school or college, like not a small person, I was able to just push the sled or arm or whatever it is with one finger. Like these things are marvelous. That being said, I can't imagine working with one. Like imagine doing Kumiko grid work on a slider. Yeah, just like walk around, get the piece, walk back. Yeah.
It'd be nice for fleshing up a huge panel. Like that big architectural panel you're working on now?
Yeah, that would be. But then I wouldn't have an excuse to buy a track saw.
I was going to say, what about you?
You're buying a track saw.
I just thought of it. Because I thought, wait, how am I going to do that?
You can borrow mine.
I was going to get, the little block and my little Japanese saw and go all the way down the borders of this 3-foot by 4-foot panel. But the podcast with Vic where he was talking about using his track saw.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, track saw.
Yeah. They are great. Because
I have like an old Craftsman circ saw with an old blade on it. And I just have, the piece of MDF with that I clamp down and use that as a fence. It's like, no, I have a track saw. And then you see a track saw. It's like, no, you don't have a track saw.
So the shop is functional, right?
It's in that second stage.
Yeah.
Where I would say no.
I would say frustratingly functional.
Yeah.
I think you can. I milled here. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going home.
Right. No, so that's right. So we have the machinery set up. It's wired for the most part. We have dust collection, which is wired for the most part. But you may be moving, a hose from this machine to this machine. You may be unplugging a machine to plug in another machine. So it's functional in that, it's a 12-inch joiner and a 15-inch planer with segmented cutter heads and nice Oneida dust collection.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can kind of get some work done in here. But it's like, that was sort of the essence of a public shop, is that I think a shop, it's like this organic thing in that it's not absolute and concrete. It's a function of it being in use. And I remember coming to the shop, and it's like, oh, what saw blade is sharp? And which one of the 4 crosscut sleds are actually square? And I hope it isn't the giant one, because that thing weighs a lot.
It was.
So, but then when I was like working in the shop before my shop was really comfortable to work in, I really got to know the shop, and you really got into the groove of it. And I brought in my own blades, and I hid them, and I knew where all the stuff was.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you hid them, because it wasn't just like table saw blades. You had an extra jointer, like a set of jointer blades, right? That was brilliant. I love that.
So I would say the shop right now is we've kind of got the big stuff in, but it's sort of like you're moving out of an apartment and you get all the big stuff out, the couch and the bed and refrigerator, and then you look and you have like 97 trash bags full of stuff that still have to get moved out. I feel that's where we're at. We got the big stuff, but not all the little stuff necessary to really make it truly habitable.
Yeah, it's about the only thing that I've done in here is I made a crate to ship something out. And I milled, and I mean that jointer.
Oh, it's beautiful, dude.
12-inch Grizzly. I can never remember 9860ZX or whatever, but it's at first I have never jointed on a segmented cutter head, so there's a little bit more, and I didn't realize what was going on until Raleigh mentioned it to me. There's constant contact.
So there's more resistance.
There's a little bit more resistance.
Right.
So it's like, at first I was pushing, of course it's 12-inch joiner. So it's like, give me an 11.5-inch bore.
Sure. Why am I here?
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, this takes effort. And then I realized it's like, no, you are doing work with it right now. So that really like reset my thinking about working on a joiner.
Yeah.
But then I'm a little bit afraid to go home and mill anything up.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I've just been like, grain direction? What's that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we'd done a quick video demo of milling lumber, and I kept saying, and theoretically, you need to pay attention to the grain direction, but with the segmented cutter head, you really don't. But if I were, I would mark it and I would keep it in this direction, but I don't really need to. Yeah, what a game changer.
Yeah, I'm glad we mentioned it in the video, because it's like it's going to be hard for us to like continually draw those lines.
Yes.
But it's important.
Yeah.
It's important for us to do that, which brings up another thing. Like, when we've done shop tours and everything, the biggest question that we've gotten is like, why did we get rid of our 16-inch joiner?
Yeah. When that original shop was put together, so I'm going to say it was maybe 1995, 96. It was sort of like the ultimate shop, biggest and best of everything.
Okay.
And what it didn't, and it sort of straddled the line between, and this we talked about the slider, it straddled the line between sort of like I'm not going to say commercial and home, I'm going to say sort of a commercial shop versus a fine furniture shop. In that, so I think we had like a big 30-inch bandsaw. And we had a 16-inch joiner, SCMI joiner, which is so nice. And we had a 15-inch, the 15-inch Powermatic planer, the kind that weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And when we were shooting in there, we realized that there was a disconnect between what we were using and what someone in a home shop is probably using. Like there was so that's why we had a 8-inch general jointer around that we could photograph on. That was in the other room. We had
that was my Powermatic.
Oh, Powermatic.
Yeah,
the green, because it was green.
Yeah.
Powermatic green, yeah.
It was only used on photo shoots.
Yes, yeah. And we had a 14-inch Delta bandsaw to go with the 30-inch. Mm-hmm. And then we eventually got rid of the 30-inch and scaled down to a 24-inch.
Oh, yeah, so much more reasonable.
So it's a little bit more. With that in mind, is we wanted a shop that was going to at least be, it was going to translate to what you're doing in your own shop. If you read this article and you go into your own shop, but we didn't get an 8-inch joiner. It's like, but 12-inch joiner would be nice. Yeah. So that's just said, but I think a 12-inch joiner, segment and cutter head, it's a bit of a stretch, but I do think that's like a really ideal joiner if in a home shop. Money's
no object. Yeah. That's what you go with.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would probably, I don't know what I would, I think an 8-inch joint, 8-inch joiner, I think is still like an industry standard. If I had an 8-inch joiner segment and cutter head, that's pretty good. And I think 12-inch, just because of a lot of lumber prep and stuff we do for photo shoots, I think having that extra capacity is good. We have a 15-inch Grizzly segment and cutter head planer. I think that's right in line. I think you're either going to have like a lunchbox planer, benchtop planer, or if you're having floor standing, it's probably going to be a 15-inch planer. I think that's what you're going to have.
This is the first time I've worked on a 15-inch, because the old one in the old shop was 20, right?
Yes, correct.
And at first it was like, oh, this isn't that much bigger than my 13-inch DeWalt.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a totally different beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a totally different beast where you can, aggressively mill if you need to.
Yeah.
Like I did that other day where it was like I needed to, in one shot clean up a board. And it was just like, I think I was taking like 3/16 of an inch off. And it was like, come at me, where, it's just a totally different, the floor standing, would we call it?
Sure,
yeah. It's movable if you need to.
Yeah, we've hip checked that around a little bit.
Yeah. Definitely not fun, but it isn't one of those machines where it's like sometimes I see people moving machines into their basement. The Grain Doctor on Instagram, and I'm like, dude, you live there now,
right? You're not going to want to move that out.
Yeah, but he's that's part of the fun for him, I think, is like figuring out a way to get this stuff in the basement. He's getting a Bridgeport down in his basement right now, But like that 15-inch planer is like okay, you and one other person can get it where it needs to be. Even the 12-inch joiner was not a whole lot of fun. We had worked ourselves into a corner.
Yeah.
With it on a pallet. Wasn't a whole lot of fun. But it's a heck of a lot easier to move than a 12-inch. What did Matt have?
Northfield?
No. Well, or a 12. Yeah, any of
Oliver,
those.
but it was like old and heavy.
Dude, that thing was brutal.
They're beautiful machines, like that old iron, but like,
yeah,
I'm afraid of them just because I feel like it's a life decision at that point. Whereas these machines, you can move later.
Yeah, totally shimmyable, that joiner. Because the joiner and planer used to be somewhere else. And us three, I think we were talking about like, oh, maybe these things can go here.
Oh, you and I did it.
But we didn't flinch. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to eat some Wheaties and get this done. It was, we can move them. Like it wasn't terrible.
Well, and even just a couple weeks ago, I finally decided, okay, that joiner needs to move over 1 foot. And that's what I did. Yeah. You know, now it helps that this is the most slippery floor in the history of the world.
The ice skating rink, you mean?
But so what are we going to do about that?
About
the slippery floor?
I think we should lay down a plywood floor on top of it.
Do you really?
Wouldn't that be nice?
It'd be wonderful.
That would be nice.
There we go.
Wow.
You heard it here, folks. I was thinking like horse stall mats or like
that's what I was
3M.
That's what I was thinking.
I think a rubber mat here and there. We talked about that. You talked about, and you had mentioned the horse stall mat.
Yeah, and then I one day I was like, I'm gonna go get them, and then I go on Tractor Supply Company website just to make sure that they had them in stock. There's one right down the road, and it's like they're 100 pounds a piece. I was like, I'm not gonna go get them.
I'd rather move the jointer than pick up a horse stall.
Yeah, they're so limb. It's like a yes.
Yeah, so I figure one of these days I'm gonna borrow my dad's trailer or something, so we could just pull up.
Uh-huh.
How are we gonna get those? Can we get those in?
Sure.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, like he's helping.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's because my dad had small ones in his shop, and when we moved him out, I was able, they're not terrible. It's so awkward. Like, you know, when you pick up a child who's actually asleep versus a child who's just tired, that's what those horse stall mats are. It's like, oh, these things are heavy. We're like the sleeping child actually heavy instead of just like a resting child.
Totally limp. No,
right.
They're not
helping me at all here, are you, Junior?
Yeah. My daughter, awake or asleep, she was limp, and she was like,
she's like one of those cats that just goes, ooh.
Yes. You got to work for this.
That was a weird metaphor, man.
Seriously though, I know you've done it. Yeah.
From floor mats to limp child.
Yeah. Actually sleeping child. Yeah. I'm excited to get the tool wall up and the clamper, because they're also pretty. They also feel like settling in, going back to moving into or out of an apartment. Moving in, there are stages. You get art on the wall. That box is empty, but it also feels homey, you know? Ditto those things.
Yeah, it's like the shop is up and running to get some stuff milled, but sort of the understanding is now I'm going to take it somewhere else to actually make something.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I think it comes up though that I'm guilty of thinking it for this place where it was like, okay, we're going to get the machines in, and then next week we're going to put the tools on the wall, and then next week, and the more time I spend in here, the more time I'm just going, nope, that's not where that lives. But that's how we had it on the floor plan. No, it doesn't. That's wrong. The floor plan is wrong. So I don't know why I thought it would be any different than my shop at home, where I'm on layout number 5,
right? Yeah,
3 years in.
Get out.
And I feel like it's now at a spot where it's like, okay, there might be a tweak here or there, but this is pretty much the layout. You just why did I have it in my head that this place was going to be different? I don't know. Maybe because I thought it just needs to serve this one singular purpose of being a good place to woodwork while making videos and take pictures. But it's like I moved this whole rack over here because I realized, and I put a piece of plywood up on the wall because I realized, wait, you got to have a place to hang all the stuff that goes with the table saw.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a place next to the table saw where that stuff goes, you know? Like right now I'm thinking up like where all the push blocks going to go over next to the joiner. Because there's no wall.
That drives me nuts that there's nowhere to put the push blocks at the joiner. Yeah. It's like you're trying to balance them like on the fence or on the little power box. Like where can I? Yeah.
So like do we just make like a little shelf above that? Because there's a power switch unit or something like that. Do we just make a little shelf to go above that? But then I think, oh, well, we kind of need to have a piece of structure coming down to have the electrical and the dust collection tied onto. So like maybe something goes off of that holds the push blocks. And it's like, well, how many push blocks do we need to have? I think you need 3 for a joiner because I think you want 2 foamy ones. I think you want 1 stick one with the thing.
No, it's
Right. So it's like, I could spend a day making push blocks.
Yeah.
And the places to put the push blocks.
Okay, so the next time I have a free day,
that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah,
where there's nothing better to do than make push blocks, I'll make them. Yes.
Yeah. And it sounds like a silly little thing, but it's an important thing.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like it's just going to take a minute. But then it's like, well, okay, what am I going to make them out of?
Yeah. So, I was really surprised how nice it is to work on a really nice drill press.
I haven't used it yet. Is it that?
Wait,
does it not bounce around? Because mine bounces around. And I thought that was standard. So if it doesn't, I'm confused.
This one does not bounce around.
How does it bounce?
Because it's like 100 years old. It's just maybe I've never checked the holes with calipers. Maybe they're not perfect, but let's say shakes.
So you think there's run out? Is there like slop in the quill or?
Sure.
Okay.
Probably run out.
He's using an old shoelace for a belt.
Bunk, 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 bunk,
it's like I bought it from a farmer. Like I drove out to Western Connecticut and he had it in the back of his pickup truck. He had $50. I said, yeah. And then I left with a drill press. Like it's not this.
No. Well, and our old drill press too, there was something starting to go on with that thing.
Really? I don't remember it.
Yeah. It was
the big one?
Yeah. There was bearings that were starting to go on it, and it made like a grindy kind of noise. And I just didn't get along with that thing. And I felt really, really dumb because I was somehow kind of in charge of wiring the machines. And
thank you, by the way.
And I thought that it was a 220 drill press.
Yeah.
And it is. It can be run at 110 or 220. And I, for some reason, have never seen a 20 amp 110 plug. It's just like, I know they exist. I've seen them. In the wild, I was like, well, that's weird. That's got to be a 220 plug, And my brother needed to drill long, precise holes in a piece of wood. I was like, oh, well, man, mine at home, it's not going to cut it. He's got an old beat up Craftsman. It's like, it's not going to cut it. Let's go use the new drill press. And I said, but we got to swap the wiring over to 220. And I was kind of afraid to do it or something. I thought you had to. I had an old table saw that when you swapped out the voltage, you had to swap out a different circuit breaker in the machine itself. So my brother's much more electrically minded than I am. So I said, this is your job then. You want to use this drill press? This is the cost. And and he opens it up. He goes, dude, this is at 110 already. I was like, what? He goes, look, there's like this one little screw here. You just move this wire over to there, and that's it. It was like, how could it be so simple? and then he pulls the cord up because this is just a 20 amp cord, idiot.
You're not drilling any holes. You kick him.
And then like I look in the wall and there's a 20 amp socket there. I was like, wow, this is like it's
everything.
meant to be, you know? But it really is just so smooth. I think it's a 5-inch quill throw, which has been like mine at home is 2 inches. Yes. And that's one thing whenever somebody talks about like what would you look for in a drill press, a 2-inch quill throw is not enough for me.
Yeah, that's tough.
I find myself backed up against the wall a lot with that.
Yours is more, Mike?
Mine's 4.
Get out.
Yeah, it's an old Buffalo drill press, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 4.
That's back when they really had to drill holes.
Yes.
I'm curious to use this drill press as table because it's a bunch of like T-bars for hold downs.
I think we need to outfit it with like a larger, oversized plywood table.
Okay. I'm just scared of it like drilling into it and ruining it.
Yeah, true.
That's, and like obviously, there are a bunch of people right now, if you pay attention, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's overrated.
That's asking a lot from this crew.
But the T-slots are super cool because that's going to be really easy to mount a plywood.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're like, okay, what am I doing? Am I screwing up? Am I clamping it? It's kind of hard.
So it just seems like another one of those quality of life things. Like you move a screw here to there to do 220 to 110. Like it feels like they're just covering your butt.
Yeah. And I mean, I think drill presses are primarily sold for metalworking. Like they do make specific wood worker drill presses, right? But I think it's just a swapped out table, right?
Yeah, I think it's I'm going to say some bells and whistles on a regular drill press.
But like, yeah, okay.
Like whatever you're going, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to say it's similar to, you can kind of buy a crosscut sled from a catalog.
But you should make it.
Or why don't you make it?
Yeah.
Right. So, I think anytime that we can piggyback on a different industry, like anytime we can piggyback on, metalworking or something, we're going to have better tools to use as woodworkers. Because I think the woodworking audience is a fairly small pool.
Mm-hmm.
So that anything like, even something like, center finder punches or something like that, that you can get from Harbor Freight for super cheap are really, really good and suited for what I'm doing because there's a much bigger market for those things. They're subsidizing me going in and buying my set.
Well, another, dust collection that is driven by a much larger industry than us.
Like finishers?
No, masonry people. And then also, just industry.
Yeah.
Like people making 412 things a day as opposed to 4 things a year.
Yes.
I think that dust collection really benefits from other industry usage as well.
Right. Yeah. And Barry and I, we were just talking about sharpening stones. I mean, there's a lot of sharpening stones on the market and really, really good quality. And Barry's like, yeah, but that's probably like knives, cutlery, that's what's driving the market is people sharpening their chef's knives on the stones, not woodworkers sharpening a chisel or plane iron.
I asked Nanohone. I forget
Hap Stanley.
Hap, thank you. I asked him one time. I was like, what percentage of your market is woodworkers? He was like, 10. Everything's like high-end cutlery knives.
I love the little glimpses into other things. Like, you guys are really nerdy too. And there are more of you. I love that.
I was watching a video, a chef is going to say, let me show you how to sharpen a knife. I'm like, well, you're not a woodworker. What do you know about sharpening? I'm going to watch you. And it's just like, no, dang, he really knows how to sharpen like really, really well. It's like, okay, yeah, sharp is super important.
Okay, so question, because I'm really excited about this machine. Does anybody else use a mortiser? Because I can't imagine that cutting through metal. I don't think I've ever cooked with one.
Oh, I thought you were like back to just talking to us. Do you guys use a mortiser? I was like, Mike's right there. Sorry. Because I think. Have you read anything he does?
I am. I am so excited to use that machine because I have a benchtop mortiser, but like. It's an old Delta or it's a small delta, and it like you're doing 1/4 inch holes and nothing more. And
Right.
there are no stops. It's just got those like finger prong hold downs.
And you're sliding the workpiece right and left.
And then just like, so you're gripping it to hold it to the fence, and by your final 5 mortises, you're like, oh, my forearm hurts.
Yes.
Like, these boards are really pointy on the corners. Arises. But like this, I'm super excited to use. I think I'm most excited about that. After like the milling and the 12-inch joint and the blah, 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 that is thrilling to me.
I think we should have Jameson on again sometime, and like maybe not like in an official capacity, and ask him what the industry looks like, because Grizzly sells a lot of different industries.
Dude, their
So, like,
catalog is like a phone book. It's amazing.
I remember the first time I got a Grizzly catalog. Yeah. I was like,
it's like an MSCI catalog. It's
yes,
like it's everything.
It's like you feel so important all of a sudden. You're like, they invested so much money into me. Had nothing to do with the fact that I bought a bunch of machines, but it was like, wow, and then you could just sit there and flip through it. But they do so much crossover, between their lathes and bandsaws for metal workers and milling machines and everything. But I wonder if mortisers benefit from knowledge gained making milling machines.
Oh yeah.
Or if is there a front wave of mortiser technology? Or is it like, dude, it's a square hole.
That's right.
Don't ask anything more.
Well, because like the lever system is different than a drill press, right? Like it's got that robust spine, and it rides
so to provide more torque to drive that square chisel down. Yeah, definitely longer handle.
Although I love mortisers, I hate mortiser handles because I feel like I'm pulling out my rear delt every time I go to reach for one. Because like they're like at 2:00 when I'm standing at like 9:00, and so you're reaching. It's a little thing, but I hate it.
You can adjust the angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're losing torque, right? Or like you're squatting down to finish the hole.
There's a proper range. Depending on where the bit is, how far you need to drill, you can like adjust the handle to a certain point so that ideally you're not reaching too far when it's up and you're not pulling too far down when it's down. Yeah. Yeah, the mortiser is tough. I mean, I've got one. I love it. I understand not a lot of people have mortisers, and if you're doing an article or demo or something, you kind of want to demonstrate on tools that people are most likely to have. I still use my mortiser. It's
it's the most brilliant.
Yeah, it's like, or you can just drill a line of holes and chop a square. That works too. But I like to use my mortiser. I think people take different routes. I think I started by drilling and then chopping it square, which I think mentally is connected to a mortiser, because a mortiser does the same thing. It drills a a round hole, and squares it up with a chisel, which follows the bit. I think the other route is a lot of people set up to route their mortises.
I think that's an awesome way. 'Cause you get these wonderful smooth walls.
Yeah, and there's like super smart ways to do it, and people like will spend their whole careers. I just route my mortises, and I can do angled things. I can dial in. I can center a mortise based on this jig that I'm using in the fences. I can dictate how long it's going to be. I can mortise into end grain. There's like a lot of really smart ways to set up to route mortises. But it's like I think it's like a different path. Like in a video game, if you upgrade to warrior, you all of a sudden can't.
What have you been playing?
And
he swings out with an RPG. I'm blown away.
And all of a sudden, like paladin's off the table, like you can't go there anymore. It's sort of like
you need a more
mortiser
flexible
router.
job system. So I feel like Final Fantasy IV fixed this, or 5.
I'm officially the oldest one here.
And then there's a domino, but a domino is kind of related to routed mortise, which is kind of what it is. So, I think there's different ways to get there, but I think that's where the tool you use is really going to dictate how you use it and the path you take.
So it's safe to say, though, Mike, that you had some pull in the equipment.
But I'm saying
in this room.
torque. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we don't like. Why were you like Mortiser? We need a Mortiser in that corner. For you, why is it a must-have machine in a shop like this?
For me, the Mortiser was a game changer, fundamentally my woodworking, because in terms of cutting a mortise and tenon joint, my tenons got really quick. You get a dado blade and a table saw, super fast, super accurate. And while I was like drilling and chopping a mortise, it's like the mortise took, 10 times longer to cut a mortise than it took me to cut a tenon. And when I went to a mortiser, all of a sudden a mortise was faster to cut than a tenon. Yeah. And it wasn't just a time thing. It was like a fundamental shift in like, oh, well, that's not a problem. That's not a limiting factor anymore. That's not a concern in the design of a piece, how many mortises, because how many I'm going to have to cut. All of a sudden it was just like, oh, no, I don't even have to think about mortises anymore. It's sort of like getting up and running on cutting a dovetail. As long as you're stressing out about a dovetail, you're going to pay attention to every dovetail joint and every piece you design or make and possibly avoid them or stress out. But like once you get your dovetailing down, which is not tough, then dovetails are not an issue. They just are. If you need one, you cut them. So I think for me, the Mortiser, that just kind of plays that role in my mind.
So talk about branching job paths. That's where the router and Mortiser split for me, because with the router, I still need to think about the mortise. Like it's less easy to see layout lines. Routers kind of want to do what they want to do because of the spinning bit. And so I'm just more aware of things. Whereas the Mortiser, so mine doesn't have an end stop or anything. So I just draw my layout lines and I mortise between the layout lines. There's not a ton of dust that like I need to worry about is jamming up the cut. It's exactly what you said. Everything is just, oh, this is super easy now. It's great.
Do you think that when you got your Mortiser, do you think that that's also when you started designing a little bit freer? Because you all of a sudden, a through mortise, no big deal. I want a through mortise here. I am not hindered by this as a designer at all.
Right. I think that's it exactly, in that sort of the faster or easier it is for you to build, the more the process becomes about design. Even to the point of like when I did my kitchen cabinets, which was all, plywood on a panel saw, biscuits and screws to hold everything together. Everything went really, really fast. But then I realized it's like because the construction was so fast, it really depended on how good your design was. How good of a job did you do designing all the sizes for everything, and sort of like what details are you going to use to, pull everything together kind of cohesively into a certain look, what hardware you're doing. So I realized on doing something like a built-in kitchen, I think design proportionally took a much, much bigger role in time and effort and importance than the actual making of it. So I think that, to your point, when we're woodworking and our focus is on craftsmanship and doing everything right, that compared to the design we're spending, design plays a very, very small role there. And I think that a lot of people going into the craft with aspirations to be a professional furniture maker, probably coming into it with like, I'm making my money based on my craftsmanship, because, if I can cut a really good dovetail, that's going to be my calling card. And bottom line is, not a lot of people can cut good dovetails. It really comes down to the design. What are you making? What's that final piece look like? So yeah, I think anything that speeds the process allows greater bandwidth to think about what you're making and what it looks like. And ultimately, for me, that's probably the biggest hinge point on how happy I am with the final piece.
In almost the same regard, it's not design related, but when I got a joiner and I was able to make a board square, square, without like a whole lot of hoops to jump through.
Dude.
Everything else is so much easier. Everything else was so much easier all of a sudden.
Right.
All of my joinery came together better. everything just fell into place more effortlessly because my boards were finally square all the way around. And that's another hoop that it's like, yes, you could absolutely woodwork without a joiner and a planer or whatever. But for me, it was a game changer. Yeah. Like I almost think that, you know, I'm not going to go that far and say that a joiner elevated my work more than access to a good table saw.
No, yeah.
But maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
starting flat and square, that's a huge thing. And then I think, okay, so faster, easier, more efficient, more accurate, then all of a sudden you run into the wall. Wait, why am I in the shop? Because it's not to replicate a factory furniture shop where everything is about speed and efficiency. And I know people like a domino's a fantastic tool, but a good friend of mine has a domino and says, yeah, I don't use it all that much because to me it doesn't feel like woodworking. And it's not that it was cheating, but it sort of defeated the purpose of why he was in the shop because he had a real job. He was bringing in income. Woodworking was there to get a break from that. So, and I think all of this stuff is like falls under that question of why are you here? And like, no, well, I like to drill and chop, or forget drilling. I love to chop a mortise. Are you telling me I need a mortise? It's like, no. If you're there to chop a mortise because you're at the bench getting some bench work in and making some chips and that's your groove, now you don't need a hollow chisel mortiser. You don't need a router. You don't need a domino. You don't need a pounder router. You don't need a multi-router. Just go at it and bang that thing. So, you know, I think it's always that kind of time versus efficiency, effort versus, you know, and then accuracy. Like why are you here? So, I like to design. I like to make furniture. I would say I like to make things, and the design is really important because that justifies or fails to justify all the effort that goes into making. So I think design is super important, but I like the finish line of a finished piece. So I want to get there with a certain efficiency, meaning as fast as I can, but to the desired result that I want. So, which means a lot of handwork, but it also means machines where I can. So, yeah.
You like the finish line of a project? Like that final 10%?
No,
you don't want to throw
not the final 10%, the final 0%.
Okay,
like,
all right. Yeah. The actual like chest over the ribbon.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Done. Yes.
That final 10%, I don't care if it's a one-day project, that 10% can go out the window. You know? All right, cool.
No, anything for a photo shoot probably has drawer fronts, probably not drawers. And if there are drawers, there may not be drawer bottoms in there. Yeah.
And there's one.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a reason why Pony Jorgensen is tight with woodworkers. Their clamps are made using only the highest quality of materials, and they inspect each one to guarantee consistency and performance. That's what they mean when they say clamps without compromise. Head on over to ponyjorgensen.com to explore their wide range of pipe clamp fixtures, bar clamps, hand clamps, and more. And join their woodworking community on Instagram by following them at pony_Jorgensen. All right, so what all do we have to do in here? We've got the Rikon 18-inch is set up.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
I was there.
Oh, yeah, thank you for you went to it.
You guys were going to do a setup on the 14-inch.
Yeah, I want to. I
bandsaw?
keep saying I'm going to do it as a live stream one day and like just do it live.
We have a tool
Do it
wall
live.
consisting of a Studley tool chest poster hanging in the center of it.
I just realized how funny that is. I didn't.
We were shooting a video with Mike Michelli, so he actually looks like H.O. Studley.
Yeah.
So I threw that behind him, and it also covers up a 220 outlet that's annoyingly right in the middle of the tool wall. That's one thing I want to build, like a little shelf over that.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we going to do French cleats? Are we going to do? We want tools mounted on the wall, right? individual racks, French cleats, panels with tool holders.
I'm into screwing right into the wall. Like, so
So
never
am I.
mind French cleats.
So am I. And then Aspen came in here and like rocked my world with
Yeah.
she's like, well, I can like, move my entire shop in like 10 minutes as long as I have some French cleats to put stuff on. I was like, that's a really good point. But
When I moved from my first apartment to my second, I had a tool wall in my first. I think I just like took a photo with my phone of the tool wall and then numbered things. So like, hammer rack number 1, and then took it off and then put a number 1 on the wall. And it made like breaking down and reassembling a lot. Like pretty simple. So because the French cleats, they eat up space.
yeah.
So like if your
depth.
if your cleat's 3 inches wide, you can only hang tools in those 3 inches. Then you have the next cleat and the next cleat. And so the spacing of the cleats will directly affect your tool storage. And I like the,
You
the
can't
versatility.
pack tools in.
Right.
The-
Or like, I think you have to really engineer like a rack.
So at my house, I've got one tool wall and it's, shiplap pine.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem that I have with it is it's like, I'm going to move this tool and there's going to be 2 holes there. So then like I'm sticking like bamboo skewers in there and everything and trying to cover up the fact that there was a hole there. And now I find that when I hang a tool, it's like, oh, can I get them on the gap in between the boards? So I'm trying to like bury the screws in between the shiplap, or, this one screw could go in that old hole,
Yeah,
So it's like I have enough OCD or not actual OCD. I have enough, what's the problem?
Anal retentiveness?
Thank you. About leaving the holes in the wall.
You asked me to not bang the table.
Yeah.
I'm trying to not have my jaw hit the table because this is amazing to me, like aiming for the screw to like into the shiplap. Are you that particular?
No, it's a shop. It's a tool. Your shop is a tool. Why are you sweating weird things?
Because my shop
Let's gang up on Ben.
No. All right. Do you want to know why? And
Your shop's lovely.
My shop is lovely and I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
And I fully admit, and I don't think 2 years ago I would be able to say this, but I fully admit half of what I love doing out there is making my shop nicer. And you know what? That's what it is.
It is such a nice shop.
It is.
It's such a nice experience. Yeah.
But like, I like having all of my tools as efficiently placed as possible. There is a thing to me about like it. I used to be absolutely bothered by the fact that my screwdrivers and the screw bits and some of my drill bits were 15 feet away from my drill press.
Oh, yeah,
and,
now.
and the rest of my drill bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I probably spent 2 weeks of my shop time slowly moving everything over into this one set. Okay, well, then how does that all fit together? Okay, well, now this is over there. Now my little screwdrivers are with the other screwdrivers. But that means like the place where I do my electronic soldering and all that jazz, that has to be there too now because my screwdrivers can't be separated. But I'm really coming up on like, dude, this is like the way it's meant to be. And I think I admitted to Barry one time that I worry that like I'm going to get everything just so in my shop and then just keel over on the floor, because it's like,
yes,
that was it. Ben has met his goals in the world and boom, he's done.
What's that Twilight Zone episode where the guy just wants to be alone so he can read? And then like he goes to sleep.
Glasses.
Yeah, he breaks his glasses. That's going to happen where like the table starts just going to explode out the side. And it's like, finally I can get to work. And then boom. Okay, so speaking of efficiency and like, you have a sharpening station, Ben.
Yeah.
I do. You don't, right?
I do.
Okay. Is it just like the tackle box lives in an area?
Well, I have a whole like countertop for sharpening station, which just has become sort of inundated with other stuff.
Okay.
And then I have a tackle box type of sharpening station, which I travel with. And now I travel from my sharpening station to my bench top when I want to sharpen.
Right.
So I guess it is a little bit more portable. I probably do my sharpening. I mean, I do all my grinding at the quote unquote sharpening station, like the Tormek But then I do all my honing at the bench top, one of my 2 bench tops.
Okay, so you don't have to like clear nonsense out of the way to make a home. So you can,
No.
That was a big step for me. And I think we're gonna have a sharpening station here, right? Like
We
over by
do.
the sink with the. I'm very
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get a grinder.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to have a grinder at my house.
Would you want like a high speed, like a low speed, high speed grinder, or a?
I want one of the ones with the diamond wheels, right?
Yeah, with the CBN, just like slap a CBN on a high speed.
So like a Tormek with a diamond wheel?
No. Well, no, that would be nice, but like a
Like a
high
standard,
speed, slow
yeah.
speed. Yeah, like I don't know what a speed grinder, a speedy grinder with the diamond wheels would be nice.
Have you seen those, Mike? The CBN wheels?
I was reading about the replacement wheels that fit on the Tormek
Because you have a Tormek.
because I have a Tormek, and it's like, oh, I never have to, worry about flattening the stone.
Yeah,
and
like
everything.
perfectly crowned.
But then as I was reading reviews, because I think there's a couple different types, they talk about which one lasts longer. And I'm going, lasts longer?
diamond.
A diamond is forever.
I mean, they do wear out, but the notion that I have a wheel that's going to wear out is just so bizarre. Because,
As opposed to just get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller?
yeah,
Okay.
which is what mine is. And I started out with a 10-inch Tormek, and now I believe it's like
4.5
an 8
inch
3/4 inch Tormek. But I mean, that was like after 20 years of use.
Yeah.
So I don't like the idea of spending a lot of money on a diamond wheel if it's eventually going to cut. Oh, it started cutting super fast, and now it's not cutting as fast anymore. But
This reminds me of you when you went to diamond paste because you couldn't handle you couldn't stomach flattening a ceramic stone. You're like, I'm like wearing away. Those stones are going to go away at some point. And
This
I don't
is
think
exactly
you gave
the
them enough
same
room.
This is exactly the same thing. Yeah, because I thought every time I flattened my Shaptons, I was like, there's money down the drain. man.
yeah.
I just think brand new, dead flat, fresh abrasive. Let's go.
Yeah, but it just didn't work for me. And it's funny now because my shop never freezes because my work from home's out there. But that was one of my main
Sure,
reasons,
that was a big thing. Yeah.
I think if I was going to buy stones again, I think I'd just buy some Nortons.
Really? Norton
Yeah.
water stones?
Yeah.
Which is what's in your tackle box, right?
Yeah, and I just had to buy a brand new 1,000 and 4,000 because they were thin. They start out like an inch thick, and I was down to a quarter
Just
inch.
enough for the clip to
Yeah,
snag
well,
it.
the clips were a little bit too high, and I had to be careful on the sides to not run my honing guide across those or something. So, yeah.
Do those go in the house for the knives?
Oh, yeah, they should. They will. I still have them around.
Yeah, but we definitely need a sharpening station here.
Yeah.
And we need to get some stones probably. I don't know what all we have. And that's one thing that's been a source of frustration for me. When I talk about my anal retentive tendencies in my personal shop, I'm trying not to apply that here.
Oh.
Where
You don't need 2 rabbit holes, dude. That's
well, no, it's okay, the drill press is over there, so that's where the screw guns are going to go, and that's where the drill bits are going to get stored. But then you're probably going to use the hand drill over there. Oh my goodness, it's 100 feet away.
Yeah.
That's a long,
Why would you store the hand drills by the drill press?
because that's where the drill bits go.
That's where the drill press drill bits go. Where do the hand drill bits
Well,
go?
I didn't know what kind of budget we're really dealing with here.
That was a huge shift for me is when I realized I could have more than one Allen wrench of any given size in my shop. And so now at the bandsaw rare earth magnet, this is the Allen wrench for the guides.
Yep.
At the table saw, here's the Allen wrench for the throat plate leveling. And over by the Mortiser, I got another Allen wrench there. And the problem is I couldn't really find what I wanted to get was a T-handle style.
I love those.
As a single, but I couldn't find those. But Harbor Freight had whole sets of T-handles, which were so cheap.
Price of a single.
I would just buy multiple sets of those and throw those all over the place. I do like those. Same thing with screwdrivers. I can have more than one flat blade screwdriver.
I have 2, and I feel like a king.
No, I have multiples of each, but each one is relegated to a certain level. of task.
Yeah.
So like I'll even send like my wife or my son into the shop and be like, hey, can you go get, the
plus or the minus.
I was so disappointed in my son the other day. We're putting something together. I said, what kind of screwdriver? And he goes, it's the plus. And he knew he was supposed to know. And I was like, you are no son of mine. That is a number 1, Phillips. But I will be like, can you go get the number 1 Phillips Craftsman, not the I forgot the good ones that I have, the German ones,
Weiss or Wex, with the green handles, right? The green and black. I think it begins with a W.
Yeah, but it's pronounced with a V.
Yeah,
it's not Weha, whatever. But yeah, I have certain levels of
it's not West Hartford, that we know.
No, we has a manufacturer.
It's the acronym for West Hartford too.
This is a YouTube channel where he like tests like screwdrivers. What's the best screwdriver? And
there's like a YouTube like world where they test best screwdrivers. This is like, and I watch a lot of that.
Yeah, me too.
So we need some screwdrivers. We need multiple sets of screwdrivers. We need multiple sets of Allen keys.
Yeah,
we need to do inventory, which might be like the least fun thing because like, do you make a tool wall without knowing what tools you have?
Yeah, and what I would do in my shop, and it's the same thing here. So I'm not saying this is like because we have a huge budget or anything, but if I were doing it, I would look at all my stuff and I would say, no, but it's just like, yeah, come on. That's a screwdriver that you use just because it was in the toolbox.
Absolutely.
You got 30 years ago.
No. We should buy reasonable screwdrivers. We should buy reasonable, whatevers.
When I was a kid, we had like the big, like the 3-pound tin can, coffee cans filled with like nuts and bolts assorted. And literally I would always go there and, you spend 10 minutes trying to find a nut and a bolt that actually fit together and worked. And there's like little carpet tacks in there too. So you had to be really careful about reaching in. And the first time I went to the local home center, I think it was like called Angels, but it was like, and then there were all these little tiny bags of nuts and bolts on the wall. It's like, you can buy these. And I was I was so angry. I was so upset.
And then Mike found out about grocery stores.
I was like, literally, I had to like ride my bike a mile to the hardware store.
It's a
like,
worthwhile mile.
And it was like, it's the Mecca. It's like, oh my gosh, there's this whole world I didn't know existed. So yeah. But
that's why my shop is so nice.
But you had kind of mentioned, Ben, like I'm working here and I realize I got to move this a foot over here. I'm working here and I realize the tools have to be here. And I think that's
exactly it.
Yeah. And I think that just has to happen. You just got to start working there. And it's just like, oh no, I want to reach right here for this. Stop, put that right there. Yeah. And then you kind of keep on going until it's like a real shop.
Yeah. But we do need to get hand tools up on the wall.
Yes, we do.
That makes a really bad backdrop for videos.
Yeah.
Here's a blank piece of plywood. So I think that's the next step. We need to get the hand tools down here and just make some holders and put some hand planes.
Should we just steal the holders back from Anissa, who got them from the old shop? That'd be really funny.
That without telling her?
Oh yeah, while she's on a shoot, just go over and take all the hand tool holders.
How long do you think it would take her to notice?
3 days, maybe more.
I don't want to be on that text exchange.
No, but it'd be so worth it. Mike, you in?
I know nothing.
I think, I think he can't for HR reasons.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll get some hand planes up. We got a bandsaw to get set up. I want to put a piece of plywood on that cabinet, on the side of that cabinet to hang the saw stop accessories off of. There's some work to be done, but I think we've got a good starting point here with the shop.
Yeah, I got to get some clamps up on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, where? And it's funny. Every time we think about things up on the wall, I remember when Aspen came in here and she was like, y'all need to paint this place or something.
Oh, you gave her the heebie-jeebies, didn't it?
Yeah, because it was just so monotone.
So kind of institutional looking. Yeah.
But the more we get stuff up on the walls, the better it's going to feel, the more homely it's going to feel. Yeah, homey.
Talk about moving in again.
I've been watching too many British shows. See, they always say homely.
When I move into an apartment, I cover my walls with photographs and paintings because I live in cheap places. It's like really ugly, like off-white.
Because there's holes.
Yeah. And just like, but when stuff goes up on the wall, it feels like home. I still have all my trash bags full of crap. But so yeah, getting stuff up on the wall, it's just instant. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of clamps up on the wall, some sleds and jigs hanging up on the wall and everything.
Ooh, maybe patterns. Can we just make patterns to hang up? Like they don't have to like actually pre-exist.
I can store half of my shop in this shop, like all the things I can't throw away, but I don't use. Sure.
That's instant decoration. Give me that half-finished Kimiko panel from 2019.
Okay, now we're talking. Yeah, I'm just thinking it's going to be filled with bins of arts and crafts wall cabinet class templates.
All my class stuff I can keep.
Oh, no, that's not what he was thinking. And now I've just given it to him.
Yeah. I did sort of finally christen the shop by storing some lumber here. That was nice, except then it got used for a photo shoot.
I didn't know it was yours.
It wasn't. It was for the photo shoot.
That's the quarter sawn white oak I see lying around?
I'm not positive. Yeah. It's like 2 weeks later, and I still don't know how much water I'm in.
None.
How hot it is.
That was a good shot.
It was a good shot. Mike did. A couple days after we recorded that episode, Mike did slack me. He was like, that was a nice shot.
Yeah. The art director won out. Damn, okay.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that, bringing some lumber down here and clean up some space in my shop. Ooh. Because this is where I'm going to mill it anyways. I'm not.
Yeah. So
my joiner is not getting turned on until I leave this job. I'm just telling you right now.
So then lumber storage, which is because at the old shop we had like
a big old rack,
yeah, like an individualized bays, right? Or were they just like informally?
No, they were.
Oh, because there was the vertical and the horizontal, right?
Right.
It was mostly vertical,
and it was mostly junk.
Yeah,
that was just gained the inertia of I live here now.
Yeah.
This weird board just lives here because it's been here long enough. So, but yeah, I think lumber storage is good. I think class template storage is really good.
There is a big storage room.
Yes.
And that is off camera that no one will probably ever see. Right. And we'll probably store lumber in there, right? We need like a chop saw set up.
Yes. Chop saw counter.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We need to get the rigid sander set up.
The spindle sander thing? The belt sander?
Yeah. There's a lot more than I thought now.
Because now we need to like make decisions. It's not just like hip checking the jointer around. Now it feels like what goes where and what do we have to build? It feels more permanent.
Yeah. And it's hard because like when I think about, okay, I'm going to put some hand tools up on the wall. It's like, all right, this is the backdrop of a lot of photo shoots.
Yeah.
This is probably not the way Mike would do it. Just constantly running through my head in all shop endeavors. But, it's hard because it is a community shop. It is somewhat of a public shop, where it's like people will see this. So it's going to be difficult to just suck it up and do it.
I think, and I just thought of this now as you were explaining like the nerves. Remember like the hand saws in the old shop and how absolutely unusable they were?
Yeah.
I think that could take the edge off. Like they just seemed like that's not actually a usable thing. It just kind of looked nice there.
Yeah.
Some of the things.
Yeah. Yeah, like all the Japanese saws had like 4 teeth.
I remember I was like, pull them off of the wall. Like, what is this? The chisels were pretty sharp, or at least half of them were.
There was like every now and then I would get frustrated and just sharpen every chisel. in that shop.
Yeah, and there were different sharpening methods employed in a lot of different chisels. Like, wow, okay.
I have realized, though, that I'm probably going to break out my old roll-around toolbox.
What?
Because it didn't work. It held, the hand tools I needed to use on a day-to-day basis in the old shop. But like the way that it opened and everything took up too much space in that hand tool room.
Yeah,
it's not going to be a problem here. Yeah. So I haven't thrown that thing away, shockingly enough, and I'm glad now.
Yeah.
So
right on.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of work to be done, but we've got a good starting point with all, with the milling sections up and running. The Grizzlies are singing. Grizzlies don't sing.
It's a Disney movie. We'll rock with it.
Yeah, like there's something there. But dust collections, we've got a good start. We've got to run a little bit of ducting, just not because the dust collectors need it, but because we need to not step over hose.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's about it. I we'll probably do like another update on the shop, and
we should. Yeah, I feel like this is just a starting point. Okay, we have a space, we've got light, we've got electricity, we've got our machinery, we've got workbenches. Now let's just finish it up. Yeah.
That does it for this episode of Shop Talk Live. Thanks again to our shop launch sponsor, Grizzly Industrial. And thanks to you for listening. If you have any questions you'd like answered on the show, send them into shoptalk@taunton.com. The inbox is getting a little thin. I can tell that y'all are still listening. You're just not sending as many questions. So if you have questions or discussion starters, send them in, please. shoptalk@taunton.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. We'll see you in 2 weeks with another episode. Thanks for listening. All right. So we're not using the tail vise conversation because I wasn't recording. Can you not hit that part of the table saw?
Barry.
There are a lot of rules this time. Ben jacks up the first recording and now he's telling me what I can and cannot. I don't like this.